It is going to be a weird week, Popey. I mean, I get to see your face all the time because in the broadcast booth, we are not required to wear the masks that we have been up until this week, required to wear everything else around the arenas that we visit. But when I was walking into the Odd on Sunday for Rangers and Storm, I got about 15 steps away from my car and thought, oh, forgot my mask. Turned around, went to pick up the mask, and then it hit me. This is the last time that Sunday that I'm going to have to do this because as of this week, no more masks in Ontario Hockey League arenas. It's going to be weird, but I'm kind of looking forward to seeing people's faces in the arena again.
I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, if I'm being honest, this past weekend, I saw a lot of faces in the Odd.
That's true. Well, if you're actively eating or drinking, though, you know how it goes, right?
Yeah. They were actively eating and drinking while watching the game. But no, you know what? It'll be nice. I'm hoping that we're getting closer to normal and the people will start to come out to the games a little more. I think we saw it this weekend, two of the best crowds that we've had at the Odd anyway. Obviously in the past entire season. I was going to say the past 2 years, but yeah, canceled last year. Definitely the best couple of crowds that we've seen at the Odd. And I'm hoping that once people can be in there and they don't have to worry about the masks, that we'll get more people. But I'm also a little worried that once there's no masks and unvaccinated people are allowed back in, that some of the vaccinated people might not feel as comfortable going to games. So we may not see the crowds that we're hoping for.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think if I have my math right, it was crowds number 4 and 5 that surpassed 5,000 at the auditorium this weekend. Just over 5,000, 5,008 on the Friday night versus Erie, and then 5,800 plus, 5,844 for Rangers and Storm on Sunday. I think a lot of things contribute to that. A lot of minor hockey teams were there, Guelph and the proximity and stuff. But we should give a shout out to whoever those guys were on Friday night with the 5,008. There might have been a dozen or so. They were across the arena from us, but let me emphasize that they were across the arena from us and we could hear them up in our broadcast booth because these guys came for a good time and that's what they had. And shout out to them for making the arena feel that energy again. It was clean. It was fun. It was loud. It was awesome.
Yeah. They were singing both anthems with Saginaw in town. And or was that Erie? That was Erie.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was the Erie game. My apologies. Yeah, with Erie in town, they sang both anthems. They were chanting "Go Rangers, go!" They were chanting "Goalie, goal!" They were just having a blast. And even with talking with some of the players afterwards, when they went out for the 3 stars, the 2 Rangers that got stars both pointed up to that group because they were so loud. And when you get that kind of atmosphere, it's a lot of fun to play in. And it was an electric atmosphere. It was great. The players appreciated it. I loved it. It was awesome.
All right. We've got a lot to discuss before we get to our guest on the podcast this week. One of the bigger discussions is something that will carry over from the media room in Kitchener on Sunday when we got into a conversation with some scouts and it led to, I think, something that we should address here about how this game, maybe even specifically in the Ontario Hockey League, is being played right now. Before we get to that, though, a couple of players to single out. Let's start up in Barrie, where the Colts are going to get Tyson Forrester back. Thank you very much, Philadelphia, from the American Hockey League back to the Ontario Hockey League. And this is a massive add or re-add for the Barrie Colts. Expected Forrester is to start playing by the end of this month, and that will not hurt your playoff prospects in Barrie.
No, it will not. Kind of in the middle of the Eastern Conference right now are the Barrie Colts. But when you can get a player like Tyson Forrester back into your lineup when you don't have to give up anything, even if it is a couple months after the trade deadline, gearing up for a playoff run. Now, that Barrie team, which we've said numerous times can beat any team on any night, it seems like, gets such a boost to their top line when you get a guy like Tyson Forrester back. 23rd overall to the Philadelphia Flyers 2 years ago in 2020. Probably would have been playing pro or up in the big time, if not for a rough start to the season for Forrester health-wise. But I just think getting him back in that Barrie Colts lineup just sends everyone down another notch and gives, that he's one of the elite goal scorers in the league right now, just coming in without even playing a game. And then to get them back, that's a team that I don't think a lot of Eastern Conference foes want to see in the playoffs.
You don't want to take anything away from some of those other Eastern Conference foes. Obviously, you've got Wisdom and Wright and Chromiak in Kingston. You got Brandon Cohen Company in North Bay, Mississauga and their great goaltending duo. And I've been pumping Hamilton's tires since the trade deadline, getting both Jackeye and McTavish, arguably the best defenseman and the best forward in the league. But you add Forster to the Barrie Colts, who already have Brant Clark on the back end, and all of a sudden, maybe that conversation is similar. Here's what I think is the best outcome of all of this. I really believe that this is going to be the first year in a long time, Chris, that we have seen first round upsets. I'm not necessarily going to say an 8-1, but I'm telling you, I just get the feeling that nobody really knows who anybody else is. The other guy we're about to talk about puts a team in the West that's usually a pretty powerful team in a real precarious position as the playoffs approach. So who knows? Does the goaltending duo in Mississauga withstand the pressure of the playoffs and a stretch run? And who knows? Does Wright and Wisdom and everybody else come alive in Kingston? I think it's going to be really interesting, and I think we might see some first round surprises. How about on the Western side, the Owen Sound Attack, who look poised to finish sixth, pardon me. But does anybody want a piece of that team right now? Holy Hannah, are they flying along?
Yeah, I think in the East, there's like six or almost maybe even 6 or 7 teams that, could beat any team on any given night. I think in the West, there is a little bit more separation between the top and the bottom. But even in those bottom teams, I don't think there's any team that someone really wants to play against. Like Kitchener seems to be putting things together a little bit right now, playing better hockey. They have the forwards that can put up the points. They have Pavel Chayon who can steal games for them. Owen Sound flying right now. Nobody wants to, and they have home ice advantage every game they play up at the Bayshore. So do you want to go in there twice at least to try to beat the attack team that are so good in that building? You got even in Sarnia, guy like Ben Gaudreau. Do you want to play him? He can steal an entire series for you. Erie's flying right now. They're a hardworking team, 4 lines that just flow. Not a lot of game breakers offensively, but they're hard workers. And in a playoff series, when the game gets tight, that's the kind of hockey they play. So they've been playing playoff hockey since BJ Adams took over. So yeah, there's a lot of transparency, and I'm with you. I think we will see at least 1 or 2 upsets, which you don't normally see in this league in the first round.
Exactly. So I'm kind of looking forward to that aspect of it. And in Sarnia, you mentioned Gaudreau, and then you can't overlook Anson Thornton. Like, it's a great combination in goal for that club. So, and just imagine if that's the 2-7 matchup. If Sarnia comes in 7th and the London Knights are number 2, and Sarnia has owned London this season, and that's the other team we wanted to talk about, because how much do the London Knights miss Brett Brochu? He got injured in a game versus the Kitchener Rangers earlier this month. There was no collision on the play. He just tweaked something, left the ice. If you include that game, it's a total of 8 games now that Brochu, he played part of that one. I think it was the second period. No, first period.
First period.
Yeah, because I'm trying to remember what end of the ice he was in. Anyway, so 7 games plus 2 periods, no Brett Brochu. And including that game that he left where the Rangers scored 4 to beat London 4-2, 46 goals against the London Knights in 8 games. That is a monster number, and just shows how valuable Brochu is to that London Knights team.
Do the math for our listeners and myself.
It's a shade under six goals a game.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a lot, and that's something that you don't see with Brett Brochu, pardon me, in goal. And I've said it all year long. He is the X factor when it comes to the OHL. And yes, I think, like you talked about pumping Hamilton's tires, I think everyone knows Hamilton's a good team and probably the favorite to win in the league when you go out and get Jackeye and McTavish at the deadline to add to the likes of Mishak and Winterton and so on and so forth. But Brett Brochu, no other team has him. Hamilton doesn't have him. Flint doesn't have him. No one does. He is the only elite goaltender in this league, with all due respects to Ben Gaudreau. I think Ben Gaudreau is fantastic, and he's a very good goaltender. Brochu's a little older. Brochu's a little more experienced. He is the only elite goaltender in this league. There is no one else that has a Brett Brochu. London can play the style that they can play because they know Brochu's there to bail them out. How many times have we seen it this year, and even games with Kitchener, where London's playing a little more open, a little more free-spirited, and Kitchener will have 2 or 3 chances in a row, but Brochu's there. 2-on-1s, breakaways. Brochu stops them. He's a game changer. And he's the one. And in the playoffs, we all know goaltending becomes all more important. It's right under the microscope. And when you have a guy like Bert Brochu, who's proven, who can do it, is one of the best goaltenders in the CHL. He was on Team Canada's World Junior team. And you're seeing it, just how important he is. I'm sure, the loss of Styrel Steklov off their back end and Logan Mayu, that doesn't help either. But when you have a guy like Bert Brochu who continues to bail you out over and over and just makes the saves he needs to make, and then you have really some rookies as backups, and they're struggling right now. They're bringing in people from everywhere trying to find an answer until they get Brochu back.
Yeah, it's 5.75 to be exact goals per game allowed in Brochu's absence. It's interesting when you talk about him as a player and being a difference maker. I'll leave the names out to protect the innocent, but just in a conversation with a scout not long ago, he not high on Brochu at all. Look, it's an individual's opinion, but thought that maybe there's a little bit too much inflation of what he means. But I think this speaks volumes. And when you've got a team that features the likes of Luke Evangelista and Tony Strangis and Sean McGurn, et cetera. You talked about Steklov and Mayu also missing time on the back end, which is huge, obviously, and factors into the Brochu effect as well. But there have been some that have been wondering if this was a flaw in the design of this particular edition of the London Knights, because it's not been very London Knights hockey in the time that Brochu's been away. They've been 3-5 over the stretch. That's not London Knights-esque at all.
No, but it just goes to show, like we talked about it before the season, the importance of goaltending in this league. Yeah. I talked to it in the preseason. I said, bet the over on every game in the first 2 months, because there's so many new goalies coming into this league, and it's a hard thing for rookie goaltenders to do. And that's what we're seeing here in London, because they don't have a backup plan. So they have all these young goalies who haven't played, and we know Dale likes to ride Brochu. He's played 42 games, I think, or something crazy right now. So he's taking a lot of the experience away from some of the backups because he is so good. So these young guys are basically starting their season right now. They've only played 5, 6, 7 games. So when you have a rookie who's not experienced and you're going up against teams that are 50 games into a season, you're kind of behind the 8 ball. And that's what's happening in London right now. And they're going to have to figure something out. Their back end is ridiculously stacked, but when you lose guys like Steklov and Mayu and Brochu all at once kind of thing, those are 3 big pieces to be missing the way that team's made up. And we didn't talk about it, but Tony Ostrange is basically trying to do it all himself right now. Like his goal the other night was absolutely ridiculous. I've only seen it done once before, and it was when I was playing NHL on PlayStation. Like, it was next level, unreal goal of the year. Done, over. End of sentence, period, done. 30, full stop.
The biggest thing working in London's favor is that they were able to build up a big enough cushion in the Midwest division that they're still very likely to finish second in the conference, and then obviously draw the lower seed. But again, as we talked about, if that 7th place team is the Sarnia Sting, I don't know that you want a piece of that when you're London. Nonetheless, it'll be interesting. We want obviously the best for Brochu, but this is a glaring hole in the London Knights armor right now as we head into the playoff run.
6-1-1, I think, Sarnia against London this year.
Yeah,
is what Eddie told me when I went downstairs the other night.
Go make sense of that. Like, please, I'll wait, because I don't know the answer to it. They've had this mastery over the Knights even before Brochu got hurt. So
it's wild. I have no idea.
And just this past weekend, to finish off that thought, Sarnia was down 4-3 going into the third on home ice versus London, and won 10-4. 7 goals in the third period for the Sarnia Sting. Max Nemestikov and Ty Voigt were having themselves a day versus London. So there you go.
But see, even looking at that, like 7 goals in a period, like that's crazy. But you can understand when you look at it that this is a young rookie goaltender in net. He lets in 2 or 3, and all of a sudden he gets in his head going, oh no, game's getting close. Like, it's tied now. What do we do? Oh no, we're down a goal. And then all of a sudden another one goes in, and your confidence goes from where it was here, where it's normally way up here, but now it's down here. And then you get another couple goals and your confidence just plummets, and you can't stop anything at that point. You're in your own head, and goaltending's 50% physical, 90% mental.
Thank you, Yogi. Love to hear it.
Something
All right,
like
to the bigger matter at hand, and we kind of touched on this last week, Popey, when we talked about the 8-game suspension to Brant Clark of the Barrie Colts. Obviously, he unloads on Jan Mysak of the Hamilton Bulldogs. Mysak is back now, which is good. I think he only missed 1 game, 2 at the most. But it was a big open ice hit. When you watch it on replay, I think you can probably find an argument for shoulder to head and this and that. But nonetheless, it led to a conversation that kind of spilled over into the media room in Kitchener on the weekend. And there is a sense that the game, as we know it today, has gotten a little bit soft. And I always shy away from these conversations because I feel like a bit of a Neanderthal when the conversations start, and that's the easy argument against. And I'm not sure soft is the right word, but what it means in this context, it's not that the players who play aren't doing incredible things, aren't incredibly strong and, well developed physically by the way they train for the game today. And it doesn't even mean that they're not as tough as nails. They are. They're blocking shots. They're playing with, guys trying to keep them from scoring goals. All of these things are still happening, but there's something about the game, and I would have to agree with this specifically at the major junior level that we get to see week in and week out, that it's just there's not as much contact in the game. Body checking isn't the art that it once was, and we cover a team that once boasted Scott Stevens on its blue line, and we all know what Scott Stevens did in the body checking department. So as a guy that has kind of gone from the side of let's get fighting out of the game completely and has kind of come back around on that part of it and seeing a role for it in the game, call me a Neanderthal if you want to, but I'm looking at the game generally too, and we can quibble over which adjective we use, if soft is the right one or the wrong one, but this is not as physical a game as it used to be, Chris, and I'm not sure that I love its lack of physicality.
It certainly isn't as physical as it used to be. But this year, it's not as physical as it was 2 years ago. My main view on it is because, again, there's the double cohort of rookies coming in. So twice as many rookies in the league means twice as many players playing a little shy, twice as many players maybe not at the physical development they need to be for the Ontario Hockey League. As much as these teams gave draft picks from 2020, off-season workout plans and food plans and stuff like that, nothing can supplement for a full year in this league. And that's what I think we're noticing. Whereas these rookies are still just a little nervous, trying to figure out the league, trying to figure out who's who, trying to figure out where they can go and what kind of body contact is out there. Because there's still a lot of shy players, and that's how I would use it. I've used the word soft in the past. Some people don't like the word soft, but there's shy players. They're stick checking versus making body contact. They're not finishing their hits because it's a big step still from AAA in minor midget or bantam or junior C, junior B, whatever you were playing, to the jump to the Ontario League where there's NHL prospects. There's 20-year-old men skating out there that have been in this league for 5 years. There's guys like Mike Petesian, who's literally built like a beer fridge, running around out there at full speed, and you're coming in at 5'10", 5'11", $140, let's even say $160. It's intimidating. And it's still intimidating. And I think that's what we're seeing this year, where there's just players shy, still trying to figure out the physical aspect of the OHL. And you can't supplement missing an entire year.
We watched a game this weekend, and I'm going to leave all names and even teams out of it. We watched a game in the Ontario Hockey League this weekend, you and me, where there was a bit of a scrum along the boards. The puck is in players' skates, and they're in there kind of trying to dig it free and make a play. And there were 3 or 4 players. There might have been 2 from each team on it along the boards. But another player came in and was kind of on the outside of that scrum and was about to enter it. And then for whatever reason decided, I don't want anything of it. I don't want any part of that. I'm just going to back off and wait for these guys to work the puck out. And I'm like, since when does that happen? Since when do you not want to go in there and get that puck? That's your puck. And if you don't have that puck, you can't score a goal. And just that little aspect, that little play in a game spoke volumes to me about how it's being played today. And again, I don't know. I hope it's the double cohort, and I hope this double cohort then begins to kind of find its way in this league and throw its weight around a little bit more in the years ahead, because at the rate we're going, we're not going to see body checks anymore.
Yeah, those type of plays don't bother me as much because you want someone on the outside of the scrum, because if you get all 10 players in there, the puck's going to squirt out, right? So eventually that puck's going to squirt out. So you want some guys on the outside of the scrum. The plays that really bother me are down the half wall, whether it's in the neutral zone, defensive zone, or offensive zone. Puck will be on the half wall, 50-50 play. And I see both players reaching out with their sticks. Stop skating and reaching out with their sticks. Get moving and run over that player if he has the puck. You don't even have to run him over. Just slightly bump him and remove player from puck. Like, that's hockey 101. And it's plays that we're just not seeing as much anymore because both guys are reaching because they're scared of getting knocked out. Like, they're scared of getting popped. And like, we've seen some massive body checks this year. Like, I just think back to just a couple games ago where Francesco Pinelli laid a massive body check, but then got absolutely obliterated in the offensive zone. A great stand-up, full body check, chest to the center of the crest. It was perfectly clean. But those big hits, rookies see and think, I can't get up from that. And it truly is. They're like, I don't want that to be me. Like, that could have hurt. And Francesco popped right up, but he's been in the league. He's been to an NHL training camp. He's had the benefits of the Kitchener Rangers giving him workout programs for a full season and an off season. He's had the benefits of going overseas, stuff like that, where all these other kids are coming straight out of minor Bantam and not playing last year and then jumping into the OHL. So it's a huge learning curve and they're still just trying to get used to it. I hope we get back to the days where people aren't as shy, which is the new word I'm going to start using.
I like it.
Yeah, not bad. But yeah, it's the swinging stick plays for loose pucks. I'm like, take an extra stride and eliminate the body. Like, it's not a big play, but it's a very shy league this year. Yes. And we talked about it before the season. We knew it was going to be shy. I didn't expect it to be this shy.
Yeah, it's real shy. It is real painfully shy. And
yeah.
I loved watching Pinelli pop up from that hit. I know the one you're talking about.
His helmet came off his head. That's how big of a head it was.
That's how big he got popped. It was against Erie on the Friday night, and he was right back up. And listen,
Kulikov, I believe.
Yeah, Kulikov. That's right. A nice big open ice hit right down around the hash marks in front of the Erie net. If you finish a game of hockey and you're not a little bit banged up, you don't have, that one caught me. I'm not sure you played the game unless you played it really, really shyly. So
my good friend always used to say when he played, he was a forward. Whenever I'd ask him how the game went or whatever, if I wasn't able to watch, I always knew he had a bad game whenever he said, I was just a skater. And I'm like, well, and I asked him the first couple times, what do you mean? He goes, well, like, I just didn't do anything. Like, I wasn't doing anything physical. I was just a skater out there. And there's a lot of skaters right now.
Yeah. The guy that we have as our guest on the podcast this week played in an era where you couldn't get away with being a skater for too long. And in fact, he turned himself into a self-described rat. I knew this guy well when he was playing junior hockey with the Kitchener Rangers, so I'll leave the rest of the introduction to you. But boy, oh boy, we had quite a few laughs in our conversation with this former North Bay Centennial, Windsor Spitfire, and had a cup of coffee with the Kitchener Rangers as well.
Yeah, drafted to the Rangers, traded to North Bay, went to Windsor, and then finished his career back with Kitchener. As you mentioned, self-described rat, well connected through the hockey circles. We get some stories about guys we've had on this podcast before and some stories about people that we hope to have on this podcast. This is, again, self-described rat, Tyler Ertel.
All right. I don't think it would be offside to start with this question, Tyler, because you and I have known each other at least a little bit since high school. And the high school we were at, my father was the principal. That brings with it a whole different set of expectations and rules, and life is different. So I think it's okay to ask you as an Ertel what it was like joining the Kitchener Rangers when Bob was such a presence there.
Well, first off, I want to start off with, I'm still grateful to this very day. Your father let me come back from North Bay to graduate at St. Jerome's. And I tell everybody who will ever listen how grateful I am to your father. So I want to start with that. I'm always grateful to your father to let me graduate. And we were the last all boys graduating class from St. Jerome's. And I would have missed that if it wasn't for your dad. So the only thing I'm not sure I agree with your dad was he let John Spolter come with me. So that's probably questionable, but no, God loves Spotty. He was great. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I literally grew up in that arena. Like I literally grew up. My dad would put me in the hallway with a stick and a ball, and he would say, "Don't bug me, don't knock, don't anything. The rink is yours, and you can do whatever you want." And I had many, many days like that. So it was amazing to be drafted by the Rangers in one sense, and it was probably a curse in another sense. I went what they kind of called back then your underage year, and you could take 3 16-year-olds in the top 5 rounds. So they took Rice in the second round, rival Fulham in the third, and then me in the 5th. And they were going for a kind of a rebuild, which obviously turned into an amazing rebuild when they, got into the Memorial Cup final the following year. But the curse part of it was, we were in that rebuild. We were an 8th place team. I got a lot of, hey, you're here because of your dad. You're not good enough to be here. That kind of part. So that part of it was a difficult. As 16 years old in your own hometown, and it wasn't an easy time in my life. And I remember going home and having a tough moment with my mom. And I said, I want to go somewhere, and I just want to prove myself. And, I credit Joe McDonnell to this day. I went in and I basically had a little bit of an emotional breakdown with him. And he just said, "Hey, listen, ride out the year, and I'll get you to wherever you want to go next year." And he didn't, he was awesome. And he stayed true to his word. He gave me 2 options to go to. And, that the rest is history after that. But, I have so much gratitude in my heart for the Kitchener Rangers because they put a roof over my head. They put, food in my belly because they employed my father for over 25 years. It's funny. I was such an idiot kid. I didn't even know. I got Brian Bellows walking by me, Scott Stevens, and I'm hitting a ball against the wall. And, "Hey guys, how are you?" Right. And I have no idea how great these guys are. Right. I'm oblivious kid, and I don't know how awesome it was. But there isn't a time that I don't walk into that arena, especially in the lower part of that arena, and I get that smell of the hallway, and it just brings back amazing, amazing memories. And there's always going to be a bit of me that bleeds red, white, and blue for sure. And I love that organization for the memories it gave me. And, I could be 8 years old, and, back then things were a little different 30, 40 years ago. And I just go on the rink, and, here I am playing by myself with pucks on the Kitchener Memorial ice. And I don't even realize how lucky I am. I just like, I think every kid does this. Right. So it was amazing then to be drafted by them. And, it was awesome. What a great childhood memory. And that obviously the I don't want to say bad part. It was just it was difficult, and we weren't very good. And we all know how Kitchener is when you're not very good. It's a great place to win, and it's a tough place to lose. Like a lot of hockey meccas, like Toronto and Montreal. And I don't hold anything against people in that, and whatever. And I'm sure, I only have 4 goals that year. So everybody had a lot of right to probably think I was just hey, here's daddy's boy playing, right? So I believed in myself, but I needed to go somewhere else and do that. And always so grateful to Joe and the organization for letting me do that. So that was pretty cool.
I feel like we could maybe do a whole podcast just on your childhood of playing ball hockey next to Brian Bellows and Scott Stevens, but
crazy.
And to do it in that rink, like holy lucky.
Yeah. Just nuts.
Could you remember your first game as a Ranger, being that young kid playing ball hockey next to Brian Bellows and Scott Stevens, and then to be in that dressing room, putting on the shirt, walking down what they call High Five Valley now? What was that feeling like?
It was amazing. We had a great crowd. We played Niagara Falls. I believe I scored in my first game. I scored on Bernacki, I believe it was. And I remember I was on the bench and looking up at my mom, and I can almost feel like I'm going to get emotional right now talking about it. And I was just so, I saw my mom and my sister jumping up and down, and it was absolutely amazing. And we had a really good young core group of guys, Corey Keenan and Fulham, Randy Pierce, like just great guys. And some of them went on to have great NHL careers, obviously. And yeah, it was nerve wracking the first part, and then just sitting there and looking up, and I had always just kind of been there. It was kind of funny because the year before, they called them the Ranger Bees. The year before, I played for the Ranger Bees for Jimmy Jenks the year before as a 15-year-old, and we'd get like 400 people, right? So it wasn't a very big crowd. So then looking up and seeing like 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 people there because the home opener in Kitchener is awesome. And then to score in it was that was amazing, right? So yeah, it was great. It was a great experience, and just another awesome memory that incredible rink gave me.
You mentioned that Joe McDonnell said, "Ride out the season. I'll get you where you want to go." There were options, and the option you chose was Bert Templeton and the North Bay Centennials.
And ironically, I was 1 month academic player of the year, which I or the month. So I'm sure you can question that. No, hey, listen, Bert Templeton, he had his downsides for sure. But it was a big man's league, and he taught me how to play as a little guy. He taught me how to be a rat. He taught me how to get power plays for our team. He taught me how to hit a 6'4" guy through his hands and get the puck. And he was tough. He was mean. He was tough. But when you were on his good side, things were really good. And when you were on his bad side, things were really bad. But you know what? He gave me so many lessons to play in a big man's game with a lot of clutch and grab back then. That you know what? And the ironic part was, like, my dad and him almost fought one year at center ice. They both had their jackets off, and they almost fought, like they hated each other. And then, the conversation happened, and I'm not going to say the other team that I could have gone to, but it was surprising. My dad was like, "Go to Bert," and I was like, "Oh, okay." I really didn't know a lot back then, and we didn't really have as much say back then as players do now. And he said, "You'll learn the most from him." And Bert was he was great, and taught me the cerebral part of it, taught me how to get under guys' skin, and how to put pucks on the net and angles, and a lot of great things. But when he was angry, oh man, it wasn't fun at all. It sucked. So, but you know what? It made you better. And now, as an elderly person, I use those lessons I learned from him, from both good and bad, to get me through my own life and as well help my own boys. So it's good.
You mentioned when he's angry. What was the angriest you ever saw
him? We came back from we got dummied in Cornwall. Darcy Cahill put one between his legs back. You remember how it was when you scored back then between your legs? It was like I remember him saying, "If he finishes the game, you have no idea what's going to happen to you." And he did finish the game, and he was right. We got back at 3 a.m. and we started unpacking. And he came in and he said, "What are you doing?" It's 3 a.m, right? We're kids. And he goes, "Put it on." And we put our gear on, and we skated for 45 minutes straight, half speed all the way around the ice, and we alternated pushing the net. So one guy would push the net, and you'd push it all the way around the net or around the ice. And then when you got to the red line, another guy would pick it up. We just kept going around and around and for 45 minutes at 3 a.m. And it was, and he just, you slowed down a bit. He barked at you, and he was, when it went. But you know what? He had that in him, but he also had, like, he protected you as well. So it was kind of like, I'm the one that can do this to you, but nobody else can do this to you. So he had that in him. So that part of it was, you always knew he had your back. But when you screwed up, he wasn't letting you get off the hook, and he was going to make a point. And I remember even one game, I'm not going to say the player's name, but one of my teammates came up to me. I'd scored a hat trick the game before, and he came up to me and he said, "Hey, I got to fight you." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I got to fight you." I'm like, "What?" We just started practice. We were like 10 minutes into practice. And he's like, "Yeah, Bert thinks you're cocky after the hat trick. So I'm going to hit you a few times and you fall down. Okay." And this was a big guy who hit me. And I was like, okay, all right, well, and that was it. And that's how things happened back then. And it was some funny stuff, but that, obviously, those days are dead, and good that they are. But I don't know, some way, somehow back then, you just kind of knew what was trying to be made there. You probably didn't agree with how it was being made, but you still knew what the message was. And I most likely deserved it. So whatever, it was what it was. So it was good. I love those 2 years up in North Bay. You're the only show in town. And what they got up there now with Adam Dennis, I don't think Adam Dennis is going to be there very long. I think he's going to be in the NHL sooner than later. He's amazing. They've made some really, really good changes up there, and I think there's some good times. And when you win up there, oh my God, it's amazing. When we knocked the Rangers out that one year, we didn't pay I don't remember paying for a breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It was incredible. So it is a great town. Again, another typical high-end OHL town. And if you win, it's amazing. And there, if you lose, you're playing in front of crickets. It's nothing. So it was. I know a lot of people are like, "What? You chose to go play for Bert?" But at the end of the day, for my hockey development, it was the right call. I did enjoy it.
I can't let us just gloss over the year we knocked out the Rangers, because for you especially, Ertz, that had to be pretty special. But what kinds of emotions were you going through coming back into that barn against the team that drafted you with the North Bay Centennials in the playoffs?
Well, that was the year they were number one that year. They were amazing. Oh my God, they were so good. And I had just probably slowly perfected being a rat. And I think I had 11 points in that series. And that was obviously the year that I just got traded. And it was just one of those years where one of those playoff series where everything went right for myself and for the team. I think we play them in 10 series. We probably lose 8 of them. We had John Purvis as well. John Purvis is by far the best junior player I ever played with that never made the NHL. He was unbelievable, like unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. So he was a big factor. And then I don't know what happened to me. I just reveled in it. I got one police escort out of Kitchener, but I reveled in the rat factor. I reveled in the points, and there was a bit of me that from that year before where, hey, you're here, your daddy's boy, whatever, that was the driving force behind me every game. And I got beat up pretty good, and rightfully so. I deserved everything I got, but I didn't feel it. I was just so into it at that point. I just wanted to obviously show my parents and my brother and sister the most, and friends, and then everybody else that, hey, I'm okay. Like I'm not a daddy's boy. I can play. I'm all right. And it was pretty special to beat them out. And then the next year we played them and they thumped us. So it was 1-for-1, and it was good. They were a phenomenal team, and we just had everything go right for us. Every bounce went right for us. Every call, we sucked them into a lot of penalties, and our power play was amazing because of Purvis. And we just had a lot of good puck luck, and that worked out right. And then the next year they won and deserved to win. They were good for a while. So yeah, it was fun though. It was really fun to do that. And the number one team in the country, was beat out by an 8 seed. I think we were 34 points below them in the standings. So it was a big deficit. And it was really good. It was a good feeling for sure.
I believe it was the global game of the week with Jack Miller when you got that police escort. And I won't repeat what he had to say, but maybe you could tell us the story, Ertz.
Oh man, that was awful. I still love Torch to this day for this. So yeah, it's 7-2. And Bert calls a timeout with like 7 minutes left in the third. And we're all like, oh, okay, all right, we know what's happening. So, and I heard Torch on here before, and he pretty well nailed the story, but he doesn't know what happens in our scrum. So we get there, and it's me, the 2 Antosky brothers, 6'4", 6'5", Darian Hatcher, who, not a bad NHL career, and a guy by the name of John Van Kessel, tough guy from the East Coast. So he looks at us and he points right at me and he goes, I'm not going to say what he said about Torch. It wasn't very nice. You can probably figure it out. But he said at the end of it, if he isn't on the ground by the end of this shift, you find yourself your own way home. You can ask mommy and daddy for a ride home if you want. I don't give a bleep. You find your own way home, and I guarantee you will never get drafted to the NHL. I'm like, oh, what? So then he looks at the other 4 and he goes, if anybody lays a finger on Ertel, all 4 of you are walking home. Walks away and he goes, you guys figure out what you're going to do. So the 4 guys look at me and I'm like, okay, well, I'm the rat. So, okay, all right. Well, I said, okay, boys, we'll dump it in the left corner. I'll go at Torch. I'm going to the right corner. You guys get in front of me. Have at her. Right. And we break. Kitchener breaks. Torch is still in the net. And I look down at Torch and I shrug. And Torch, to this day, Torch did the most manly thing I've ever seen that I played. And Torch just went like this. And he knew what was coming. He didn't do anything. He could have chopped me. He could have blockered me. He couldn't, whatever. He knew it was coming. He took it. He was amazing. And we were out east, I think the year before or whatever, working at a hockey school together. Who doesn't love, how do you not love Torch, right? You don't hear anybody that doesn't love Torch. And here I got to go, a buddy of mine, I got to go stick him. And then, so I stick him, and then there's a wall in front of me. And the classic I remember, I'm a garden gnome. And then Mark Montanari he's about the same size as me. Montanari's trying to jump over and hit me, right? And I'm jumping over the guys going, sorry, Monty, I didn't want to do it. Right. And so then I go to the box. Everybody, there's no glass behind you. Everybody, I'm getting stuff thrown at me. You suck. We know where you live, Ertel. You're dead. Blah, blah, blah. I get tossed. I get the jeers leaving. Everybody's waiting. I look up. My mom's, she's in tears. My sister's in tears. It's a debacle. It is the debacle. And then, get the police escort out. I got one on either side of me. Fans, you're dead. We're going to get you, blah, blah, blah. Get on the bus. Terrible 4.5-hour ride home. So Bert he would take all 5 seats at the back of the bus, right? The traditional way is the coach sits at the front of the bus and all the vets sit at the back and the rookies sit at the front. Bert did the opposite. He took all 5 seats right beside the washroom. So if you had to go to the washroom and you had a bad game, you were getting verbally pounded, the whole walk up and the whole walk back, right? So I got a couple verbal beatings on my thing, whatever. Then I get home and my billets were amazing people. They always tape the games. And so then I get home and I obviously go to the part. It's 7-2, so there's not really much to watch. I go to the part and I'll try to do my best Jack Miller impression here. And I get to the part and obviously the skirmish happens. I'm getting escorted off and he goes, Jack goes, Ertel's making a travesty of this game. Man, he's got no respect for the game. And I'm like, oh my God, Jack, I didn't even want to do this, right? I was told if I didn't do it, I had to find my own way home. So you know what? It definitely wasn't a good one. And then I had 3 more years to go back into that rink after that, right? So it was every time when they would paint banners, before you could do there was the old wall there beside the Queen, and they would hang banners of stuff that they wanted to happen to me. It was awful, right? The big X's through my name and the Antosky brothers' names. And it was unbelievable. But the biggest thing out of that was the respect I had for Torch, just with that head nod, knowing what was going to come. And that was just kind of the code back then. And when you're calling that with Bert Templeton at 7-2 in the third period, you know what's coming. And Torch knew what was coming. And I mean, he took it like a man, way better than I ever could have. And from that moment on, I've loved that man. I loved him a lot before then, but my love for him grew way, way more. And Torch was the impressive man through that.
The game sure has changed, eh? Could you imagine walking into a rink with banners like that? I don't think you'd get to put it up, or not for long anyway.
No. And I was fortunate. I played 1 year in Windsor as a Spitfire, but I went in there a lot of times it was the same thing. You guys have heard all the stories, and it's all true. It's true. Catching eggs and screws off the back of the head, nuts and bolts, and that stuff, you can't do that today, for good reason. But yeah, it was unbelievable. And there was times I would go into that rink and there was 6,000 to 7,000 people just screaming Ertel, turtle, and it was constant. And now I'm not going to lie. I loved it. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And my boys just make fun of me. They're like, Dad, that's not normal, right? And I'm like, yeah, I know it's not normal. It's not normal, but I loved it. But it was, man, oh man, when you are a visitor in there and they don't like you, they let you know, and the love they have for their Rangers, and it's still there. Obviously, you guys know it as well. It's still there today. But yeah, it was a tough place to play when they didn't like you. It was very, very tough.
You mentioned the Antosky brothers, but you also mentioned Darian Hatcher. And I got to ask you about Hatch, because in our dealings with him as a coach in Sarnia, he kind of comes walking into the rink and he looks like almost like he just woke up from a nap. He might have just kind of, and you look at him, just looks like he doesn't have a care in the world. But then you watch any highlight of him and he looks like the meanest man that's ever graced earth. What was he like back then?
He's the exact same way back then. Exact same way. It's like, hey, Hatch, your house is on fire. Oh, what are we going to do about that then? That's it. Nothing. Hey, Hatch, you won $1 million. Oh, that's pretty cool. All right. Right. And then all of a sudden, you'd be on the ice and, hey, Hatch, that guy just cross-checked that guy. Boom, boom, boom. Like, he was a wicked teammate. He was a really, really good, it actually translated. A lot of people don't give him enough credit. It translated into his game on how he handled the puck. He wasn't credited enough with how patient he was with the puck. He made a lot of plays where he just held onto it, and guys would kind of just skate by him. Like they just go by him. And he made a lot of great first passes because of it. But Hatch, totally laid back, big American brother. He had 2 older brothers that I think had kind of carved a really good path for him, where he had already had a name established for him, where, he was like, hey, I'm a Hatcher. And you know what? My 2 brothers have really laid a good groundwork for me here. And he was an amazing rookie up in North Bay. He was awesome. And then, obviously his career speaks for itself. But yeah, he had like an eagle talent up in North Bay, so here's a 6'6" guy squeezing into this little eagle talent, and the big bushy hair was just flowing out the window. And I don't think school was his favorite thing back then either. So, but he was always with the guys. He was a great teammate. Was never a cocky rookie. Could have been very easy, but did all the right things back then that rookies had to do. And he was a really good teammate. Stuck up for me a lot of times, made me play like a 6'2" player when I'm, 5'9". So yeah, he was great. I loved Hatch. We had great guys up there in North Bay. A lot of great guys everywhere I played, really.
I would love to know who the vet was that said, sorry, Hatch, we need to initiate you now. he just says, no, you don't.
It was John Spolter. Spolter. That's who it was. Yeah. Spotty was the one that took care of Hatch, and yeah. So, but everybody loves Spotty, right? Spotty could he could make you do some things without even know you were doing it. So yeah, it was great. Spotty is great, but everybody loves Spotty, right? So Hatch loves Spotty. So, and we weren't like jerks either. So like you had to do I think we had every Tuesday you had to buy a vat of pop. It was like a quarter back then, right? Which that ages me for sure. And then you had to carry the bags and whatever. It wasn't, we didn't do anything crazy, like nothing, that was, like you're hearing here, these lawsuits and stuff. That was never there. We didn't have any of that stuff. I just don't think any of us, we just knew that was stupid, right? So yeah, it was just fun. We just wanted to have fun. So, and Spotty made a lot of things fun. So it was good.
I wanted to ask specifically about another teammate too, but from Kitchener, because his name has come up on several occasions on this podcast, and we really got to go get him on the podcast because I'm pretty sure he's still hanging out in Guelph. But Rick Alain.
Oh my God. Yeah. So Ricky, I mean, I was a 16-year-old. He was, oh my God, was he tough. But just a great vet. Like he was so good to us. We had about 4 guys on that team that were just amazing vets, and Rick was one of them. But yeah, I mean, and then that next year when they went to the Cup, Rick was a big part of that on the back end, and didn't get enough credit, to be honest. He was one of the most unsung heroes, I think, of OHL history. Because you know what, he had some skill. He could make a good first pass, tough as nails. stay-at-home defenseman, made the odd offensive play, but enjoyed taking care of his teammates. And yeah, Rick was he was awesome. He was the consummate teammate and a really good guy. And then the next year, when I told you I got the crap beat out of me in that series, he was one of the main guys that beat the crap out of me, and he let me know every game, I'm gonna hurt you, Ertel, and that was just how it was back then. I just played with him the year before, but he was a competitive guy, and I had nothing but respect and love for him, and that was just who he was, and I think I would have thought something different if he didn't do that. So yeah, he beat me. He didn't just kind of like, he beat me. Like, it was, I got a chop and a cross check and a slash and a punch and every shift. Like, it wasn't like, I let him go this shift. It was like, nope, you're going to get it again. So, and it wasn't a guy that I was going to do farewell with if I decided to drop the mitts with. So, yeah, it was, he was a great guy. Yeah. He'd have some great stories too. He'd be awesome on this.
Nice to get some positive words about Rick Elaine, eh, Farzy?
Well, usually
the
it's
Parson
just,
brothers.
Yeah, exactly. Kicking the crap out of people.
Yeah. Oh, he is tough, man. Oh, he's tough.
Ertz, you mentioned another name, and we haven't gotten a story about Randy Pierce on this podcast, but I got to ask you about Randy because local guy, former Ranger, obviously, but a local guy, and him and my uncle ended up marrying two of the Burnham sisters. So I've known Randy since I was like 5 years old, I think.
Yeah.
What was he like as a teammate?
He was great. Randy was good. I think he went 20th round. I think he was a 20th rounder to our team. And he just came on and he like fought, scrapped, scored his way onto the team. I think he played for the Sugar Kings the year before, and kind of like, junior B wasn't really kind of looked very high on the back then. And, we were kind of like, 20th rounder, who is this guy, whatever. And he worked his tail off. And then throughout the season in the rookie year, he just kept moving up the lineup, and deservedly so. And he was tough. He was like, he didn't get enough credit for his toughness too. He had the big farmer hands, had the big neck and the big head, and he wouldn't back down from anybody, but he'd go to the net hard, go to the greasy areas and put pucks in, and his work ethic was unbelievable. So yeah, and I'll say this, he got us out of the hot box for the ride home from the Sioux. So I still credit Randy Pierce to this day for that. We had 8 of us in that hot box. It was awful. And it was Randy.
It's a lot of bodies.
It was a lot of bodies. And Randy Pierce came up with the idea. He said, I'm going to pretend to faint. You guys yell that I fainted, and we fainted. He didn't faint, but he pretended, and they opened the door and we all got out. Joe got a little bit mad, and that was it. It was done. We didn't have to hotbox anymore. So that's probably a story, that a lot of people don't know and doesn't shared, but that is my true credit to Randy Pierce. That was disgusting. That was gross. So yeah, it was my love for Randy Pierce grew immensely after that one. So
yeah,
but no, getting back to the player, he was amazing. He obviously went on with Washington and deserved everything he got. He got 0 accolades, 0 press clippings, and just worked and he didn't listen to any outside noise and just knew what he wanted, and a good little chuckle to him every once in a while. He had a funny little Elmira laugh, that little Mennonite to him. So it was he was a good guy. Yeah, good guy.
You talked, Tyler, about those 4 goals in your first year, then going to play for Bert, where he taught you how to be a rat. And look, rats get points too. But come on, that year in Windsor, you're almost 100-point guy in the Ontario Hockey League. I don't care what era you're playing in. That's a whole lot of points. When did you kind of figure it out, so to speak, as a player?
I would say my second year in North Bay. Bert had just taught me, how to come off the half wall, where to swing, how to find seams. He worked with me a lot. I'll give him credit. He did give me a lot of help. And then, you got your opportunities too, right? Like I said, I was obsessed with the power play. I loved being on the power play. And I started to develop a fairly decent slap shot around 18, 19, which a lot of people let me, let go. And then that year that I got suspended that year, and I probably would have got 100 if I didn't get suspended. I did a bonehead move, but anyways, and I played for Motor City Smitty that year.
Yep.
And Motor was amazing. He gave me the green light, and we had an unbelievable team. You know, Jason Cerrone, Corey Stillman, Todd Warner, Kevin McKay, Jason York. We were fairly loaded. So, you know, I played with obviously really good players. We got a lot of those guys at the trade deadline. So I'd had a good first half up there, and then those guys coming in made it amazing. And so, yeah, you know, things I kind of clicked. I would say my second year in North Bay, Bert trusted me. I think I got 74 that year in my second year in North Bay, and then 96 or 94 that year in Windsor. And if I wouldn't have I think I got a 5-game suspension. I chopped somebody in the throat. It was stupid, but anyways,
only 5.
Do you
You're
remember?
lucky you were playing then.
I know, right? Like today it would have been, it would have been a year for sure today, right? So, but that was. I mean, I didn't fight. I just used my stick. So,
Do you remember who you chopped in the throat?
No, somebody from Peterborough. Can't remember who it was. I don't remember who it was. I used to. Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. So I don't remember who it was, but I remember Domi was chasing me around trying to get me. So that wasn't good. But yeah, it was. That was a great year in Windsor. I loved with Jeff Wilson and net, tiny little guy. He was like 5'9", but unbelievable goalie. He was lights out. I think he went on to University of Guelph and won a national championship there with Chris Clancy and those guys. Willie he was awesome. He was a character too. We had a lot of characters on that team. So, and I will say, playing in Windsor, having Detroit on the other side, oh boy, was that fun. That was a lot of fun, a lot of visits to Greektown, and yeah, it was good times there for sure. But yeah, you know what, that year and I was kind of in the talking for the World Juniors that year as well, and I lost out to Dale Craigwell, which was a great guy to lose out to, but I know Motor Smitty had tried hard to get me there. I don't think I was good enough to be there. Craigwell was better than me. So, but it was nice to, you know, at least be in the conversation and go from there. So now again, I don't know how true that is. That was what I heard. So, but you know, to have that was good. And yeah, it was a great year. I love that year. And you know, Windsor was another, when you're a Spitfire, oh my God, that is rocking, that place. When it in the old Windsor barn, that was amazing. Like you could literally, you'd be sitting on the bench and you'd be like this when things were going. You could feel the whole building shake, and it was pretty amazing.
Love the Windsor barn stories.
Oh.
It was that same year that a young 5-year-old Chris Pope was crying in his bedroom at home because the Owen Sound Platers traded Mike Spear.
Yes,
Mike Spear was my favorite player growing up. And I cried for hours because I didn't think trades happened. What was Mike Spear like to his childhood number one fan?
He was awesome. Yeah, Spearsy was great. I think he was a Chicago Blackhawk pick back then. He came, I think he was wearing the C in Owen Sound, and came in. So, I mean, we had Spear and York. We had Jason Stoss. Like, we were pretty stacked. Like, we should have probably went a lot further than we did. We ran into a hot team from Niagara Falls. I would honestly say Brad May probably beat us out on his own. He was unbelievable back then. But yeah, you know what? Spearsy was a great guy. He came in and fit in right away. Wasn't, you know, for those kind of guys, it's not hard to fit in the dressing room because you have so much respect already. Big guy, you know, hard shot, played the right way, tough, you know, could throw when he needed to, threw big checks, had an offensive side to his game. We all knew who he was. So, you know, we all were like, wow, we got Spearsy. Like, this is, you know, we're making a run for it here. Right. So, yeah, he was a great guy. Another awesome teammate, and fun guy too. He was fun too.
We started this conversation, Tyler, by talking about family for obvious reasons. But one of my favorite stories to ever come up on this podcast came to us from Billy McGuigan. So yes. Billy told us that he got a solid from your dad, Bob, to help him out in junior with the Kitchener Rangers. Fast forward 20 plus years or so, and Billy is able to sort of return that favor to your dad's grandson, which would be your boy Justin with the Summerside Caps down in PEI. Tell us about your relationship with Billy and how that all came to be.
Well, he just abused me like 30 minutes ago on text, so I don't know how good I feel towards him right now. But he's ruthless to me on text. He's those PEI. We have a UPEI group chat. And it's oh my God, it's if you ever get just a little bit feeling good about yourself, you get knocked down extremely quick in that group chat. But
you got to tell us what he said. He seemed like a nice guy. You got to let us know what he said.
Nice little maritimer, right?
Oh my God, no! He'll lose his job as a Summerside Capital coach, so I can't do that. So no, it's no. You know what? Billy, Tammy, and his 3 kids opened their house to my son. Billy fought hard to get my son. We were in the pandemic. It was Justin's draft year. He was at St. Andrews College. David Manning was amazing to him. And David was, and I get it. He was like, if you can just hold on as long as we can, and if we see there's no light at the end of the tunnel, we'll let him go play junior somewhere. And then you could kind of see where the pandemic was going. And I'd been in contact with Billy. I had a cottage out in PEI. So because Justin wouldn't have been able to go play unless I would have actually had to move somewhere. So whether it was go to BC or PEI, but because I had a residence in PEI, we used that residence to get Justin there, and then moved in with Billy. And I was out there obviously at my residence. So he was back and forth with me and stuff. But yeah, like Billy, I can't tell you the heart that guy has. He has the biggest heart. I will gladly say this on this podcast. I am amazed that some OHL team has not hired him as a head coach. He is a mini Gerard Gallant. His systems are above average to very good, to excellent, but his attention to detail and his love for his players, I've never seen anything like it. I never seen anything like it. That guy, I'm telling you right now, he was on the phone, he was texting, he was emailing 7 out of 7 days for Justin Ertel. Like he went above and beyond what I did as his father to help Justin get drafted. He had a very good contact out there from the Dallas Stars, Shane Turner, who was an unbelievable human being. And, you know, I've never met a bad Islander. They're unbelievable people. And he had a connection with Shane, and they started talking, and Billy, but he, you know, there's people out in PEI with, I know Billy was tight with a guy from out that way from Detroit, another guy from Buffalo. Billy was non-stop on the phone promoting Justin. And I will be forever indebted to that McGuigan family. I have to actually get Clark, his younger boy, and Oshawa General's shirt and hat and send it out to him. So Billy's like, oh, I'll pay for it. I'm like, yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. You just had my kid in your house and my kid he's gross. Like his feet are disgusting. Like he eats like a pig, you know? So, and I don't care if he sees this because he knows I'm right. So, and Billy put up with that, you know, Billy put up with those disgusting feet, that, you know, that's why I have no hair. I've had no hair ever since he was born, because those feet they're rancid. And he eats, he never stops. He just doesn't stop. And the McGuigans, they were awesome people to him. They opened up their house. Clark wears number 23 now because of Justin. He's got Justin's jersey hanging up in his room. And I will, like, I mean it till my last breath in this body. I will be forever, ever indebted to the entire McGuigan family, and to Summerside. That organization is A1. They actually just had a former Summerside Cap signed with the Tampa Bay Lightning today, and Bennett MacArthur. And they had the year before, Billy had Jordan Spence, who Billy coached as well. So, I mean, this guy, I'm telling you, man, he teaches these kids to play the right way. He teaches them how to be right off the ice. He's demanding, good systems. And I'm telling you, if some team from the Q and the O doesn't hire him, they're missing out. But on top of all that, it's and that's why the guys, you know, you look at what the New York Rangers are doing this year. You look everywhere Gerard Gallant goes, the guys love him. And Billy, I'm telling you, he's a carbon copy of Gerard Gallant. Unbelievable. And I just think, I think he's a big hidden gem that somebody's missing out on, and I hope somebody hears this and at least interviews him and just hears him, because the guy he's amazing. And I tell you, there would be any 16 to 20-year-old in the OHL that would go through a wall for him. It would be very, very impressive for him to get in the OHL.
There's worse guys to be carbon copies of than Gerard Gallant.
Oh, right. You see what he's doing, and I mean, he should hopefully be coach of the year this year again. And what he did with Vegas the first year there, and he's loved in PEI, and he still keeps in touch with all those guys. And he's just a phenomenal human being. I've never met the man, but the stories I hear about him, like he's just beloved. And I'm not joking. Billy is cut from that exact same cloth, like identical. You love being around Billy McGuigan. You got to have thick skin to be around Billy McGuigan, because he's going to abuse you, and he's a funny bugger. He is funny. But and he was tough in his day too. So yeah, Billy, I love him. But yeah, what a story, what a full circle story, right? So my dad brings him in to Kitchener, and leads to Billy playing some semi-pro and pro, and now using that experience to be a head coach of the Summerside Capitals. And then Billy bringing my boy in, and basically, between him and David Manning, getting my boy drafted in the third round of the NHL. So, how can't you have gratitude towards that, right? So it's pretty amazing.
I just want to bring it back to the OHL, because your year ended in Windsor, and then you ended up at University of Waterloo, but then made the decision, even after all the struggles that you went through in your rookie season in Kitchener, to go back to the Rangers as an overager. How did that decision, and being at UW, how did that all come about?
Yeah, you know what? We went there. We had a great team at UW. We were like ranked number 1 or 2 in the country. But it just, I wasn't feeling it. I kind of felt like there was something still there. And so Christmas came, and things weren't going really, I think, all that good with another overager. And I think things were kind of, and there was, I had another OHL team reach out to me. They offered me $4,500 to come back for half a year. So that's a lot of money back then. That's, that's 32 years ago, that they offered me $4,500 to come back for half a year. And then Joe McDonnell called me the same day. And I said, hey, Joe, like, listen, I got offered $4,500 from this other team. And classic Joe, I don't give a shit. I don't care what they offered you. I'm not giving you a penny. You're not getting anything from me. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. That was, and Joe, just straight shooter, right? But Joe was like, hey, listen, you know what? Come back here. You're going to get a ton of ice time. You got no curfew. You can do whatever you want. You got to show up. You got to play. You can't take any of the young kids out with you. That was it. That was the conversation. And I kind of sat back, and I was like, you know what? I realized in my 16-year-old year, Joe could have held on to me. He could have said, I'm not trading you. Right. He could have said, whatever, tough it out, suck it up. And who knows, maybe I would have quit hockey. I don't know. So there was something in me that was like, you know what? Yeah, I could have that money, and I wouldn't have handled the money properly anyway. So I would have just squandered it all away with bad choices. And I knew Joe was going to take care of me, and I knew Joe was true to his word. And I felt an obligation to do the right thing. And Joe was really good to me, basically 4.5 years before that. And obviously too, to come back to my hometown, and I had kind of established myself as, a decent player then, and to come back and kind of prove myself and go, hey, remember what you thought I was 5 years ago? I'm not. And to have that opportunity, that played in it too. But it was mainly just kind of I want to do this because Joe deserves that, and I should be doing this. This is my thank you back to Joe. And oh my God, what a great decision that was. It was amazing. Like the year we had, that year we went down to 13 skaters against the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, that was their dynasty run. And we took them to 7 games. And I remember Joe crying at the banquet. He got emotional talking about the heart that was in that room. Torch was absolutely amazing in that series. Chris LaPuma both of him and I went to Tampa Bay after that series. LaPuma stayed and played there for a bit. It was absolutely incredible. Like, it was an amazing experience, and I had a good year stat wise, and obviously the playoff run was incredible. So I loved it. It was the best decision I could have made.
You kind of hinted earlier that when you were telling the story about taking the suspension while in Windsor, slashing a Peterborough player in the throat, that it seemed like you were indicating that maybe the Tyler Ertel on the ice was a little bit different than the Tyler Ertel off the ice, just to, kind of went into this different mindset. How about the Tyler Ertel, the player, versus Tyler Ertel, now the hockey dad? How do those two compare?
I suck. I suck. I'm the worst hockey dad ever. I'm terrible. So Mr. Farwell will remember this guy. Cam Stewart is my two younger boys' advisors. So he's their advisors, and Cam Stewart is my therapist. So yeah, he it's way harder being a hockey dad, and I have to really learn to shut my mouth, and I have to learn to let my boys make their own decisions, and I just have to deal with, both my boys had injuries, and I don't handle that well, and so yeah, I basically suck. I'm terrible at it, and but Stewie's great. My boys basically coach me. So yeah, it's I'm not good. I'm not good. I want to tell you great stories, but I suck. I'm terrible. So now I put my boys getting ready to play tonight. I put my hoodie on, I be quiet, and then anytime I want to say something, I call my therapist, Cam Stewart. And he
Get a better therapist, Ertz. What are you kidding me? Come on. Holy shit.
He's not bad. He's not bad. He does. I'm sure. There's times I'm sure when he sees my name come up, he's like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" So yeah, no, Stewie's awesome. Like, he's so good. So but no, you know what? I love it. My boys are my best friends. I love being their number one fan. I do my best to stay out of the way as best I can now. When Justin made the decision to go NCAA versus OHL, obviously as an OHL guy, that's, you kind of like, oh boy, okay. But that's not, at the end of the day, it's not my decision, and he had to make it. And then, my other guy went the St. Andrews route, and then was like, Dad, I want to go to the OHL. And, I said to him, okay, well, then you got to be straight up with Coach Manning, tell him right away. And I said, you're not doing it on the phone. You're not doing it on a text. You're going to look him in the eye. You're going to tell him. Which he did, and I'll give my 16-year-old, and he said to me, Dad, that was the toughest thing I've ever done, because Coach Manning is such a great human being. And then he's gone to Oshawa, and oh my God, like, what a great Rocco Tullio, that whole organization, lights out, like, unbelievable how good they are. And he's getting 16-year-old minutes, which is right. They got Olesen and Tullio and Roloffs and Harrison, and they're pretty strong up front. So he's got to pay his dues. But the coaching staff, like, he loves Fozzie, he loves Todd Miller. Those guys are great. So I really don't have to do much. My fortunate part is I get to skate with my boys in the summer, and that's where I really, really flourish. But right now, Lisa, she'll walk away for an hour now when I get to watch my boy on the internet here, and she'll go, all right, I can't be around you. So yeah, I suck. I basically suck as a hockey parent. So other than that, yeah, I love my boys. They're great, and they take care of me. But yeah, if you're going to write a hockey book of not how to be a hockey parent, I'm probably your first interview. So yeah, that's how it goes.
Real quick, just because it's connected, you were ripping on Justin for those rancid feet earlier. Does he ever get even a little bit of payback, saying, "Hey, Dad, third round, pal, you were drafted in a round that doesn't even exist anymore in the NHL"?
It hasn't stopped. It hasn't. I got ripped in the OHL draft. It started then, so it started 2 years ago, and now NHL draft. Like, it's good. Like, I just walk out of the room. Like, it's true. I just walk out. He zings me, and I go quiet, and I'm like, yeah, all right, you got me, and I leave the room. So it's not good when an 18-year-old can just zip you up and really buckle you in a room, and I just walk out. So, and then I come back with like some stupid comment. I'm like, oh yeah, well, how many goals did you get in the OHL? And he's like, Dad, I never played in the OHL, so we can't do that, right? And then I walk out again. So again, then just another example of how much I suck as a hockey parent. So my chirping skills have really decreased, and they're very good chirpers at Dad. And especially when the three of them get together, it is just that I get beat. Like, I get verbally beat. So yeah. And you're right. I'll pay for this. So it's all good. I got to get my shot in now, because it's coming, right? It's coming. And so yeah, they're 20, 18, and 16. So it's, I can't even, like, now, like, I can't beat them up anymore. Like, it sucks. It's terrible. It's awful. So they beat up Dad, and they beat me on the golf course now, and they beat me on the rink, and so I can't play video games. I suck at that. So yeah, it's not good. I'm basically out to pasture. I'm just out in the field by myself, and sometimes they throw me something just to kind of include me in a little thing, and then that's it. I'm out there by myself. It's good.
Between the three boys ripping you constantly, the things Torchy said on the phone today about you, and Billy McGuigan's text, you might need some new friends, Ertz.
That's why hey, why do you think Stewie's my counselor? It's not just that, right? So no, hey, I joke about this all the time. It's probably the best thing. This pandemic obviously is horrific. There's not a lot of good that came out of any of this pandemic, but the reconnections that have come from that, and literally I got a Windsor Spitfires group chat, a UPI one, some other ones that are it's been amazing. And it's really been, we were having a side chat with one of the guys in the junior chat, just saying, my God, man, like, this is just like being in the dressing room. Like it is, and I always tell my boys, like, when a guy's ribbing on you, like that's special, like enjoy it. Like it's, and that's, I'm sure you hear it all the time on this, that's what you miss. You miss the bus, you miss the dressing room. You do miss the competition for sure. I miss going into an opposing rink and being yelled at and stuff and that kind of stuff. But the one thing I do want to say, we all know how difficult and the trauma that came from the tough guys. It was terrible. It's been well documented, all that stuff. But I will say I have a big love and respect for the rat, because the difference between the rat and the enforcer is not everybody's going after the enforcer, right? So when I'm playing against Sean Antosky, I'm not going against Sean Antosky because I know that's how that's going to go. I'm not going against Rick Elaine. But when you got the little rat out there, the 6'6" guy is coming at you, and the 5'6" guy is coming at you, and everybody in between. So it wasn't, again, I'm not comparing myself to the enforcer role at all. But it wasn't the easiest role either. It wasn't a walk in the park. And, when you look at your Kenny Linsmans and your Marchands, now Marchand's got incredible skill, and I'm not even close to that. But when you look at just that ability to go in and have everybody hate you, but a majority of guys go, man, I wish that guy was on my team too. That it's a neat thing to experience, but also a difficult thing, because there's 2 or 3 guys on each team that are going to go at each other, and that's it, right? That the dance is over, then the rest of the guys are. But with the rat, everybody wants to get them, like everybody. And when you get them, the crowd loves you for it. Your team loves you for it. So it was that part of it, along with the chirping that it was nonstop. That part of it was it was fun, and it was difficult at the same time, because whether it was Mark Montanari coming at me, or whoever, Rob Sangster, and everybody in between, they were trying to rip your head off, right? And rightfully so. I'm not saying I didn't deserve 1 second of it, but yeah, it was tough. It's a tough part being the rat. It's not an easy role, that's for sure. And I have a ton of respect for guys that do it. I look at a Brady Stonehouse right now in Ottawa. He's not a very well-liked guy, but my God, I love that kid. I love watching him. And, you look at your Chucks and all those guys, it's tough. No, Chucks they're a little different. They're tough. I wasn't tough. So it was good. It was fun.
I know we got to let you watch your boys' game, and Chris is always going to have, just that one more question, but
I got lots of time. It's okay. They're not starting for a bit, so it's all good.
We just had Trevor Gallant on the podcast.
Yeah, I saw.
Asked him about you, and all he said was, he called me Stinky. I don't know why. Why did you call T-Bone Stinky?
I don't know if he had a toothbrush his first year. I'm not sure. I don't know if he owned one. I don't know. He always, no, you know what? He, yeah, I don't know. He just had an odor about him. I couldn't figure it out. I'm not sure what it was. But you know what? He was awesome. Gallant was such a good teammate too. Like, yeah, and holy frig, he could play for a little guy. He could fly. But yeah, you know what? Trev was, he was great. He was great on the ice. He was great off the ice. And, he was a lot of fun, and yeah, he was good, but yeah, I don't know. He had I don't know. it wasn't as bad as my son's feet, but it was bad. It was bad. It was bad. So
Clearly nothing is as bad as Justin's feet. We've learned that for sure.
I know. So he's probably going to be single now for a good 2 more years, and that's good. And I can concentrate on his hockey career. So really, I'm helping him. So you're welcome, son. There you go. So
I love it because I got gross feet too, and I get burned for it all the time. So this is just like I'm getting chirped.
I can't lie. Mine aren't the prettiest either. So I'm just trying to. I'm probably doing some deflection right now. So
It's allowed.
yeah, it's not good. When you're in skates, basically 5 out of 7 days at 51 years old, it's not pretty. No, there's no winner. So
I do have a last question, but I have a preamble to that question. You only played 1 game under him, but Chris McSorley in Toledo. Did you have any run-ins with him? This is awesome. Okay, perfect. Because he's a bit of a legend in Switzerland.
So this is a true story. So Michael, remember this. We would come home for Christmas, and we would all, it was Don Cherries. It was whatever you would do. So went out the night before with Spotty, this whole crew from St. Jerome's, like a crew of crew. Had some fun. Get up in the morning, not feeling the best. Get in the car, drive down to Toledo, just in street clothes with my dad, just going down to talk, whatever. And stop. I'll be generous. I would say we got to the rink maybe an hour and a half before. I would say in 15 minutes before we got to the rink, stop, and I absolutely crushed some McDonald's, like crushed it. I was like Big Mac, quarter pounder, fries, crushed it. Get in there, not feeling the greatest. Hey, Chris, sorry. Hey, we'll give you a tour of the room. We'd love to have you come here, yada, yada, yada. And he goes, what are you doing tonight? I said, well, I'm just here to watch the game. He goes, you want to dress? I'm like, what? I don't have any equipment. I don't have skates. I have nothing. I have no equipment with me, nothing. Night before, out, just pounded back a gross amount of McDonald's. He goes, I'll give you 350 cash. You just got to sit on the bench. We're afraid we might get in a brawl. Just need you to grab somebody. 350 US. I'm like, you serious? I'm like, all right, sure, I'll do it. So that game, I'm wearing somebody else's clothes, like equipment and skates. So if any, you know anything about skates, trying them on, and you have your balance points. I'm wearing them out the night before. McDonald's just brewing in my belly, and I'm out there, and I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then all of a sudden, we get in a little bit of penalty trouble, and he starts playing me regular. And I'm Bambi on ice out there all over the place. It's a gong show. I'm saying to the other guys, please don't hit me. I don't have anything on. Like, none of this is my stuff. They're laughing at me, right? And it was awful. I'm sure the people in Toledo were like, who is, like, what? We're not really bringing this guy in, right? It was a gong show. It was an absolute gong show. And I remember I grabbed the $350 out and I said, I'm never coming back. And I walked out and that was it. I wasn't coming back. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this story just happened. Got back in the car with my dad, drove back home from Toledo, back to Kitchener, 350 American in my pocket. And that was it. That was the story. That was crazy. It was nuts. Like, you imagine trying to do that in today's, like, just silly, but that's how it was.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was my one game in Toledo. And Toledo they were tough, and that rink was nuts. And I was like, well, this is crazy. This is unbelievable. So yeah, that's my Toledo story.
I like that there was a Chris McSorley story. So I do appreciate that. The story I wanted to get out of you, though, was while you were at UPEI and you scored the championship goal, I believe. There was quite the celebration, let's call it, afterwards. What on earth happened? That is the craziest hockey experience of my life. So we're playing University of Moncton. It's basically the Q versus the O. So we all know that there's no love lost between the Q and the O. So they're all guys that played in the Q that are at University of Moncton, French guys. We're mainly Ontario guys at UPEI. It's the winner of that one is going on to play Acadia to go to the Nationals. And we know whoever wins, everybody was stacked on that time. Acadia actually went on to win the Nationals. We lost to them in overtime. I may start drinking talking about that, but anyways, we're out of our rink. I think they were hosting like the Scotties or something at the normal where the Charlottetown Islanders play. So we had to play in this little rink. I believe it was in Sherwood.
It was probably 6 deep behind the net. Stands were full, but it would be like playing at Don McLaren. That's what it was like. So it was tiny, right? Jammed. So score, I shoot it, score. I know it's in. Play goes on for about 5-10 seconds, jumping around, whatever. And they blow the whistle. They go to the goalkeeper, and the goal judge, and he says, yeah, it's in. The ref gives a big emphatic point, and then chaos. So the goalie comes out with his arms like this, wraps it around the ref. And then all of a sudden you see this and you see this, and everybody's coming. So that in its own right goes chaos. I'm jumping around, gloves are off. We won. We're going to the finals to see who's going to the nationals. And then all of a sudden you just hear bedlam, like screaming, get down there, help them. And turn, and I see, and all of their guys are in there, and John Nelson gets in there, and all KJ White are all in there. They're breaking things up, grabbing certain guys. There wasn't a lot of punches thrown. But as I'm making my way down the ice, this was the scariest part of it that never really got enough coverage. The assistant coach from Moncton picks up one of the metal pegs and throws it through the back glass where all the people are. And if it had been 8 inches lower and there was little kids back there, somebody would have got very, very hurt or worse. It was, and the glass shattered, and it was like everybody stopped for like 2-3 seconds, and it was like, what just happened? Right. And then it's almost like, remember that cartoon where they'd stop and then they'd punch out and then they'd go again? That's basically what happened. And then everybody started going again. And Ken Dryden actually came in and did an independent investigation of it. And they had like 4 or 5 guys suspended for like life, like 5 years. It was absolute chaos. Like it was chaos. And I've never been a part of anything like that in my life. And security came on the ice. Fans were coming on the ice and I believe it was Ronnie Carrier who was the referee, and he wasn't well after that for a bit. It affected him mentally, and rightfully so. It was a very, very, it was an awful experience. It was terrible. And I think I've said sorry to Ronnie a few times after. I was like, I could have maybe hit the mesh on that one, but yeah, it was unbelievable. But to have like Ken Dryden come in and do the investigation on it, and it even made this hour has 22 minutes. They did a skit on it. So yeah, it was pretty big back then, and obviously a great experience and a terrible experience all wrapped up in one.
I couldn't resist sending Stewie a quick text because his name came up, and told him that he either needs to find better clients or he needs to become a better counselor, because I got this wingnut on the podcast. Anyway, he said he has nothing but love. He says the dad has me as a counselor and the kids have me as an agent. So there you go. Get a better agent, Ertz.
I don't even want to see when I open up my phone what he's going to be saying here now. This isn't going to be good at all. And then once this airs, once the PEIs get a hold of me, I'm going through about 10 to 14 days of torture. This is going to be torture. Now, to be fair, we gave it to McGuigan pretty good too. So we were like, oh, you big hot shot, right? So I've got my Cummings coming really soon here. So it'll be fun. So I love it. Yeah, Stewie will be abusing me here soon on the phone. It'll be good.
This has been so much fun. I can't believe we waited so long to do it. Honestly, like we're gonna have to get all of you PEI boys on at some point for a little reunion or something.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, there's a hoot. There's a lot of good OHL guys that went out there. So Jason Denemy is still out in PEI. So yeah, there's another great one. I mean, Eric Lindos trade, he'd be a great one for you guys too. And Deno's awesome, such a great guy. I talk to him almost every day, every second day. And Kevin McDougall was out there in PEI, and then KJ White, John Nelson, Jimmy Somnez, another Kitchener guy. So yeah, it was great times out there. It was a lot of fun. We had a good team. We met that one good run, and it would have been nice. But Acadia was really good. They had a lot of good OHL guys too. So yeah, it was great.
This has been great. Thanks, Ertz.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for having me on.